all of you to my YouTube channel Animals and Pets with Partho. Today once again I am back with the popular topic of Indian breeds. Well, curiosity must be there amongst dog lovers that what happened to the numerous Indian breeds that have developed during the British era. When British could start kennel clubs, several kennel clubs in all over the country in India, when they ruled India, and not only that, they had greyhound racing courses and the likes. And those numerous breeds of dogs that had actually evolved were actually the original stock came from Britain, and they came shiploads of animals used to come to India and hit the Indian ports. And those animals were actually owned by the lords, British lords, and then of course the the aristocracy, the Indian aristocracy, the Rajas, the Maharajas, the Nawabs. These are the people who own these dogs, and they own large estates. In fact, Gujarat, they had a private army. So India had everything. But then what happened? Why those dogs, which were actually the influence of the British breeds, like mainly the greyhounds and other breeds that came in from time to time, and then, of course, you hear there are so many Tibetan breeds that are accepted all over the world. Now, where did these Tibetan breeds come from? Of course, there must be dogs that used to guard the monasteries. That is very much acceptable. And there are many monasteries in the hills of Darjeeling and all around the country. There are a lot of monasteries. And of course, if they were, how come those breeds, the Lhasa Apsos, which was so strong in Darjeeling, there is a huge Tibetan settlement in Darjeeling, and everybody knows. And that Tibetan settlement is to churn out fabulous dogs, fabulous Lhasa Apsos. In the days when there were Lhasa Apsos were scarce around the world. But then what happened? It were all perfected not in Tibet, for sure. They were because there the breed is already dead, nearly dead. And even in the hills of Darjeeling in the Tibetan settlement. Well, I know of one very old timer who has been into the Lhasa Apsos for a long time. And just a few years back, I saw him showing one dog in one of the pet shows in Darjeeling at the Chaurasta, and it was really an outstanding specimen. And even last year, in December, when I did the show in Chaurasta for the tourist fair, festival organized by the GTA, there also I found a beautiful Lhasa Apso. But then those beautiful Apsos are far in between. There are very few of good stocks available. But then they have not been propagated, they have not been rewarded. What happened? If these Apsos actually means most of these went from India to around the world in the earlier stages. I will tell you my experience with Lhasa Apsos because I have been a long time breeder of Lhasa Apsos. And not only did I have stocks from India, from the Darjeeling, but I also had stocks imported from Australia, from the Elsa Mara kennels in Victoria. And Eleanor Schultz, actually the lady who bred, she gave me the first Lhasa Apso in 1989. Elsa Mara's proud Aussie at Patricia. Patricia was my kennel name. Well, then later on, of course, I imported one more. And of course, I imported a female, which I gave to a friend. So all this, and the second one that I imported was more towards Shih Tzu. But of course, you could understand they're from Shih Tzu breeding. Because very few people would understand. They're so close breeds. But then, there are very stunning, very stark differences. They have differences in the breed. Like, the tail is a pot-hook tail for a Shih Tzu, whereas the Lhasa is different. Then the placement of the what do you call, the eyes and the ear set and all. So there are basic differences, the stop. So there are differences in the breed. But now most of these breeds have got mixed up. Even in India, it's all mixed up. You see what you see in the shows today being shown as Lhasa Apsos would be the, poor Shih Tzu, the poor specimen, who have a longer snout and things like that. They will pass off as Lhasa Apsos if they don't pass off as Shih Tzu. So it's all become very complicated. And what I really wanted to tell you is why. Because most of these breeds, because India, the dog game was so organized, and there were Britishers staying in, they had summer homes in Darjeeling, there are summer homes in all the hilly areas, like way back in, if you take Kannur or Uttarakhand. So British settlement were all in the hills, because in the summertime, when other places in India got warmer and warmer to hottest, they would all be off to the hills for their summer vacations, and they would take the animals. So those breeds, I'm sure, they acquired them in the Darjeeling area, and from, of course, I don't grudge, they must have from the monasteries, and they must have gone all over the world. In the other circumstances also, like when I was breeding Lhasa Apsos way back, I have sold, categorically I can tell you the numbers. It was 53 Lhasa Apsos that I sold to a royalty. I'm not going to mention which royalty. They have their sort of houses in Calcutta, in sort of Big Bagan area, and she was a foreigner, but she belonged to the royalty. She was part of the royalty, and she used to buy these dogs from me. And then those dogs, I would in those days be selling them for just a paltry sum of rupees 6,000. And they were all really, really top quality Lhasa Apsos. They were pure, well-bred Lhasa Apsos. Of course, they had American bloodlines, which I had imported from Australia later on. And then earlier I had imported this El Samara Proud Aussie from Australia, which of course had the Saxon Springs line from the UK and things like that. So all these again started going back to the US. This lady was an American lady, and she had a lot of clients in the US, and of course these dogs were passed off as original Tibetan breeds. So they did not require any papers or anything, and she just bought them, and they were sold for a very premium amount of $1,000 to $2,000 or more dollars and shipped to US. Now the point is, why has India's name not featured? We already have such wonderful, you have Tibetan Terriers, you have Tibetan Spaniels, you have Tibetan Apsos, and all of these, you see Tibetan Spaniels also, you would see them, hordes of them in the hills of Darjeeling, and they went all over the country. In fact, every weekend, hundreds and hundreds of them would come to Calcutta, and from here they would be shipped by train to all parts of the country. Later on, of course, all the foreign breeds started coming in, and the quality of the breeds in those places is, they sold all their best stock for money. So whatever good was there, people used to go and buy them off. So they did not have enough good stock to breed from later on. So they have lost out, and now, of course, there is whatever is there is hardly worth buying. Of course, what happened was, as you know, that our dog game went into the hand of the syndicate, and then in those days, those Apsos, I would see, I can tell you, Champion Ridge, he was appreciated by judges from all over the world, was from the hills of Darjeeling. And the person who brought it from there sold it to a gentleman called Debashish Pramanik for a paltry sum of rupees 300. Now the 300 rupees dog won multiple best in shows. He was unbeatable by any foreign imports or whatever. And it was not judged, and the judges were not Indians. They were Americans, they were English, and they were Europeans, whatever. Now see, this was the quality that we actually produced at that time, and they were all from India. Now, Indian breeds, as you know, all the other breeds like the, that was influenced by the greyhounds and the other hunting breeds that have developed. I have named them, so many of them that I named in my last 2 episodes. They are, most of them are nearly extinct. The reason is that our kennel club, the custodians who actually took over, was only interested to extract money from the exhibitors, loot the dog game. So they did not look at the interest of the Indian breeds at all. Now you have to claim that these are actually the Tibetan breeds, the Apsos and other things actually went from India. So, it would be we would very much appreciate if the name Indian Tibetan Apso could have been included rather than just remove everything, no trace of India, just Tibetan. But I don't know where does it say it's Indian. So, but it should. They're all been going from India because the dog game definitely in Tibet was never developed. The dog game developed and was 130 years, 40 years old organization, the Kennel Club of London, which actually affiliated the clubs in India. Well, this is the history, and it's unfortunate that our dog game went to the hands of such corrupt people who actually did not highlight or showcase the wonderful breeds of dogs that India possessed. And mostly, of course, the Britishers were part of it. They helped in developing those breeds, and those breeds are now all mostly dying away. We still have a few, but I don't know whether they can be revived. They are not even. No attempt has been made to make them popular in this country, and the custodians, mainly the syndicate, actually neglected it and completely destroyed the Indian breeds foundation that we once had. Anyway, I'll be back again shortly with more information on Indian breeds, and I will be talking about the different breeds of dogs. I'll be talking about the Lhasa Apsos, and I'll be talking about the Shih Tzus, and I'll be talking about the other Tibetan breeds like the Tibetan Terrier, the Tibetan Spaniel, and things like that. So, bye for now, and do subscribe to my channel and ring the bell button so you keep getting all my uploads. Thank you very much.